Dear men of the earth, I am going to show you what I mean when I talk about men of the earth. It's this place, for example, where 2 weeks ago we held the obituary for my mother. I was standing right there, 50 guests, and they all were come to honor my mother. Now I'm going to show you the place my mother and my dad, and for some extent my brother and I too, have created. It's 2 hectares of forest, and when we came here 50 years ago, there was no forest. Some trees, a few. Right here, we're crossing a bridge, and this bridge has been made of oak, and due to excessive humidity, it rotted away, and my dad created a new bridge from metal. And all this has been... Hey, camera, what's going on? I told you that nonsense. Me. Well, as I said, trying out my new toy. This place has been so humid that my parents 50 years ago intended to create a small fishery and dug out with a bulldozer some of the meadow. This wood was meadow, and you can see it here. We go past this grey area. It's used to be water, it's a pond, now it's dry. But back 50 years ago it was so watery that the bulldozer got stuck 3 times. Twice it got out by itself, and once, the last time, they had to bring in another bulldozer to rescue the first. Isn't that funny? However, that was long ago, and the land is, despite the greenery, which is amazing, the land is super dry. Wow! Gimbal is not working as I expect. We'll see how that turns out. Even the creek under the bridge, which we just crossed, even the creek, in winter it's still okay, in summer now, right now, there are sandbanks in the creek, and it's down to a few centimeters of depth. Yeah, so man of the earth. Man of the earth means taking care of all that. It's going a bit further here. Now we're going back to another direction. Now I'm on the ridge we crossed earlier. This little creek. It used to be 10, 15, 20 centimeters deep. And now it's just a few centimeters. That's how the drought is affecting us. We're walking alongside the creek, and I feel, when I see this, when I walk through this, Since my mother's death, it's like a shroud has been lifted. Now it's mine to take care of, and it's both a delight and a responsibility. Here's another ridge that my dad has created. That was originally a part of a tower of, well, how do you call these towers with antenna on it? And we are continuing along the creek. Here's another of these dried out ponds. Continuing along. And it's fun. I love it. I really love it. And I'm glad, mosquitoes. And I'm glad that it's so advanced that the forest mostly can take care of itself without having to take care of every little bit. I mentioned it, 2 hectares, and for one person or even a family, it's way too much to take care of, like a garden. And still we consider it a garden, our garden. Another ridge, we're going to cross that now. Yeah, it's always a balancing act when I'm quite used to. Still, it's every time crossing this bridge is a little not scare, but it's a bit exciting. In earlier times, the greenery inside the, we go a little closer so you can see it better. The greenery inside the creek was used to be cleaned out by the authorities and in person by the farmers of the village. It was always a big party. And now it's not anymore, because maybe even the water authority understands that it's better not to drain it and instead slow it down. I love being here. I really do. Okay, let's go a little further. I've long exceeded Joshua's 2-minute limit, but it's big. It's quite the walk here. I'm curious if and when some of you guys will come and visit. Okay, so in this direction it continues another, I'm not sure, some maybe 70 meters. We are skipping that. Going back. These parts we are in now didn't belong to us originally. My parents bought meadows additional meadows next to the house. Probably more with the intention of not wanting other people to buy it than with a real use for it. But then they planted more trees. This was meant to be an apple grove. There are some apple trees here, but back then it was so humid, so watery, that as soon as the apple trees grew a bit, they toppled over. Not enough strength in the ground to hold the trees, to have the roots being strong enough. And now, this year, there are more. This was part of an installation we had set up when we had the obituary for my mother. Along this path, we had set up pillars, actually parts of trees, and on these pillars, pictures of my mother throughout her life, for our guests to see and follow and explore. Every winter I'm cutting down trees, old trees. Some because they already died. It happens to a few of them. Some really have reached the age. Some because they threaten to destroy something else. Some even because they're too close to the house. And if they fall, that will be super expensive if they fall into the house. On the other hand, we plant trees. Part of the obituary for my mother, we planted this young apple tree. I'm watering it every day. You can see it's a little bit more humid than the other parts around it. And again, it's a work of love. So for me, man of the earth, I take it quite literally now. Regrounding, readjusting myself. I grew up here, and it's a small village with, back then, a lot of farmers, small farmers. Now just one big farmer is left, or two actually. And I helped the farmers sometimes, working in the stables. And one of the lessons I drew from it is, I never want to be a farmer, never want to work on a farm. Because that's so much work, and it stings, and you always have to be there. And I always wanted to travel. Something my parents charged me early on. So that's mainly, we made the rounds. Joshua, we made it. Are you still here? Probably 5 minutes or even 10, I have no idea. Oh, yes. So now, what I told you, yes. So now I'm going into the picture. This is it, man of the earth. And I love it. I really love it. Because I don't know why. I just do. Reminds me of my growing up, my heritage, my sense of connecting to the earth. Even when traveling, I was never a traveler into towns. My favorite places were far out. as far as away from civilization as possible, as you could manage on a motorbike. Tja, man of the earth. See you soon.